plays like a shoe.
Oh,
Sorry if I hurt your feelings with these rough facts, but it's just something you've gotta learn and act. I don't know. Shit. Fucked up the rhyme. That's okay. It's gonna be sublime.
there we go. Cool. I'm glad that I got that recorded. So, welcome
Oh,
to.
shit. Fuck. Don't put me out like that.
Well, welcome to the podcast Under the Table. I'm joined here today with Chance. How you doing today?
I am here. I should probably stop playing RuneScape before you're recording now, huh?
I don't know. Can you do both?
I mean, probably, but I don't know. I'm only mining. For all you RuneScape fans, I'm in the Motherlode mines.
I don't know what any of those words mean. Is there a
Yeah.
motherload of treasure?
You just the whole thing of Motherlode mines is you mine like these deposits, you put it through like a wash bin, and then you get a whole bunch of random garbage from it.
Okay.
It's just a really easy, chill way of mining.
Okay. That's good. That's good. Wait a second. Why is my phone ringing? I thought I turned this off.
We're just so good at podcasting, man. Fucking episode 3, a natural.
We are really bad at what we do. Like, I gotta say.
I've been saying that since the beginning.
Hey, but you gotta start somewhere.
I mean, I guess.
You gotta start somewhere. But no, today we are going to fight each other in what's it called? In Mortal Kombat. That would have been much smoother if I could remember how words worked.
It could have been. Also, we're not talking about Mortal Kombat because that is another game that, in theory, we could talk about. But,
I don't know anything about Mortal Kombat.
well, that's because you're a loser who's not playing these amazing fighting games.
The pinnacle of fight. I like Dead or Alive.
I think we all know why you like Dead or Alive.
They have really good characters, and Ninja Gaiden's cool.
Sure. I mean, to be fair, I don't play fighting games either. But anyways, we're gonna talk Pokemon.
We're gonna talk Pokemon. Why are we talking Pokemon today?
Because you texted me and said I want to talk about Pokemon.
That is fair. I did text you and say that I want to talk about Pokemon. Okay, I want to talk about Pokemon because we tend to be on different wavelengths of what we think Pokemon is doing, what it's doing well, and what it needs to do going forward in the future. And mainly, I'm bringing it up now for two main reasons. One, Palworld is a thing, and it's almost everything I've ever wanted Pokemon to be, plus guns and slavery. And we also got the announcement for the new Pokemon Legends game. Was it like Pokemon 8?
Z through A.
Yeah,
or
Z through A.
ZA.
A through Z? I don't know. Amazon?
It starts with Z.
Z?
So it's Z through A or
Z through A?
ZA.
Isn't that the
I
dude
don't
who
know.
who made the super weapon? Isn't that was his name?
What?
So in Pokemon, because it's taking place in Lumio City, right?
Yeah.
And the whole story with that, right? And the Mega Evolution, that was Mega Evolutions, right?
Yeah.
What generation is what That was Pokemon X and Y.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So for people who don't know, it was Pokemon X and Y. And the whole like backstory was like the one dude had his like Floette that died, and then he like during like Great Pokemon War,
Yeah.
and he like made a super weapon to try to bring back, was his name like Zed or like Oz or something like or like Zuzu?
What?
What was
Maybe
the-
it's been. We probably shouldn't know this stuff if we're trying to talk Pokemon, but also it's been so long since I've touched X and Y because, to be honest, it's like the Pokemon game I'm least likely to go back and play.
I loved X and Y.
I thought it was fine. It was also just kind of easy as hell.
Oh,
but, like,
and it was fast.
oh, it was really fast. Like,
Oh
it's
yeah,
not a
you
long
beat
game.
like 3 gym leaders and stuff before you even meet anyone for the first time. Also, I just got a weather update, and that probably pinged on the recording. And I don't know why that's happening right now. That's very strange. Anyway, um, yeah. God, what's his
Okay,
name?
so
I gotta look up his name.
the guy's name was as Az.
Okay.
Um, and he is the former king of the Kalos region and the creator of the ultimate weapon. The the person who tried to activate it was Lysander, who is the leader of Team Flare.
Okay. Okay.
As made it,
Wait, is
but
Lysander 1,000 years old too?
no, Lysander's just some dude.
Oh,
Just some edgy dude, part of Team Flare, who's like, I'm gonna kill all the Pokemon because y'all suck.
yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, no, that was a. So I guess the question is like, are we gonna see? Well, I guess that would have still been before the, like that's the Great Pokemon War is still probably before where the new Legends game takes place, right? Because this is all about the redevelopment.
Yeah. And I
Uh,
mean, if it's like, so it said it was the redevelopment. So here I have the official like tag from the Pokemon website.
okay.
It just says a new adventure awaits within Lumia City, where an urban redevelopment plan is underway to shape the city into a place that belongs to both people and Pokemon. Please look forward to seeing it for yourself. So the main question with this is if it's a Pokemon Legends game. The last time we had a Pokemon Legends game, it was the whole you go back in time kind of thing.
It was an
Is it gonna
isekai.
be is it gonna be the same thing here? Is this going back in time and we're gonna meet as when he was like actually supposed to be alive or whatever?
So we're gonna go back further than when the game takes
Are
place.
we gonna see him make the weapon or something? I
Okay.
don't know.
Well, because like roughly right, if we equivalent to the real world, the Legends games seem to be taking place like roughly in like the 1800s.
Yeah.
Because it was the colonization of Hokkaido, and then the whatever they did in Paris, right? I can't. I don't. My European history is rusty, but like all these seem to be taking place in the 1800s. Also, American Civil War was happening. Are we gonna get a Legends game that's the American Civil War?
We can only hope.
We haven't. I mean, we haven't really had a Pokemon game in what's it called in America. We had Hawaii,
No. Yeah. Man,
but
I have the Bulbapedia page pulled up for and this is so just absolutely buck wild, and none of this came across in the game for me.
which one
So
for X and
for
Y
for
or okay,
like the character,
yeah, yeah,
um, first of all, Lysander apparently is his like descendant.
makes sense. I can see that. Okay,
Um, yeah, he is over 3,000 years old. The dude is 9+ feet tall, and his
as
height, yeah, as and his height is a result of his exposure to the ultimate weapon.
I okay.
Um,
So I think I knew that, but that's because I'm a nerd. It was like watching like a YouTuber talk about this, like this Pokemon YouTuber that like does all the like Pokemon lore and stuff like that. So I think I knew that, or maybe it was Birdkeeper Toby. I don't know.
man, all I know is I didn't pay attention to the story of X and Y. Now I'm like looking at this, I'm like, man, that really didn't hit me.
Only thing I know about X and Y is making friends.
Anyways, enough about Az and X and Y and all this. We're talking Pokemon because all this stuff came out, and Mateo was like, "Hey, we should talk Pokemon because we differ and that type of thing." And I agree with you. I know we differ in specific spots. I especially knew that once you said that Palworld was all you wanted from a Pokemon game, and I'm like, okay, that's concerning, but all right. Um,
I mean, I'm being a bit hyperbolic, but
I
it
mean,
kind of
yeah,
is. Like,
we'll
there's a
we'll
lot
we'll,
of
we'll get to that.
yeah, there's a lot
But
of things that
yeah,
can be different and fixed, and I haven't touched it in 3 weeks, so it's
I think we should start with like a solid ground of like, okay, here's where we come as Pokemon fans. So like, what? Let's go through like, okay, like what's our favorite game, that type of thing. Like, I don't know, give some background, I guess.
all right. What is my favorite Pokemon? That's a
What's
hard
your
one.
favorite Pokemon game?
That is a hard
Mine
one.
is Pokemon Snap.
I love
No,
Pokemon Snap.
I'll talk mainline games.
Mainly,
Um,
are we? Man, it might actually be X and Y, or it might be Sun and Moon. Both, in the grand scheme of things, I think are kind of mediocre Pokemon games. But for like, I think a lot of us, Pokemon really attaches to like when we played them. You know,
hmm.
and like I hadn't beaten a Pokemon game in like forever and all that stuff, and because X and Y was so easy and so fast paced, I beat it very quickly. So I have that associated, like, I completed this Pokemon game, when I hadn't beaten one in so long. So
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. I just liked the Pokemon in Sun and Moon. Even though I hated Hop with a burning passion. And then how they kind of tried to like restructure things was kind of weird. And I didn't honestly get too terribly far into that one. But I like the setting. I thought the setting was really cool. But I've always been a big fan of a lot of the like spin-offs, to be honest. Like when I think of Pokemon, I think of like the Coliseum games.
Okay.
And then like Gale of Darkness and stuff like that. That's where I like where Pokemon really tries like I'm gonna be an RPG. You know. And
Hmm.
that's a bit of my background. But I've played most every Pokemon game that has come out. So, minus a few of the spin-offs. But most Pokemon games I've played, I'm very familiar with it. It does still make me feel old because of there's so many Pokemon out. I can't keep track of them all. How about yourself?
Um, so if I had to pick like my full-time like personal favorite game, I would have to go with Heart Gold, Soul Silver. Um, Gold and Silver was my first like Pokemon game. I technically played like Red and Blue, but I was also probably way too young to play them because mostly I couldn't read,
Yeah.
or at least my reading comprehension wasn't good enough to understand the mechanics of Pokemon. For instance, I will always remember I would use the attack Leer all the time because in the animation it showed my Pokemon shooting a fucking laser beam out of their eyes. And I was like, that's got to be really good. And I didn't understand it why their health wasn't draining. So but besides that, yeah, my favorite game would have to be Heart Gold and Soul Silver because one, it's my favorite generation. Plus, I think the gameplay of Heart Gold and Soul Silver was like super solid. That's around the time when like I would say Pokemon was really starting to get into its like it was really starting to get into where it should be.
Like
Like,
get
and
into a
I
tone and yeah.
exactly, and I think that started with like Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald,
Yeah.
Forward, because then you get like Fire Red, Leaf Green, which is phenomenal. Then you got Diamond and Pearl, which, while not my personal favorite, was still pretty good. But then I'd say the other game that I really, really enjoyed, I got really into Pokemon with Black and White. I think Black and White is probably, if you ask me, the best Pokemon game. Um, just because like it was the first time a Pokemon story actually like kind of got me, and I was like genuinely interested in what was going on. Plus, like I like a lot of the designs from Black and White. And the gameplay was still like the great Pokemon gameplay I'd expect. Um, and so that's where like I really felt like into Pokemon. And then Black 2 and White 2 came out, and I could never get into those. And pretty much ever since Black 2 and White 2, my interest in Pokemon has waxed and waned. Like,
Yeah.
I played X and Y, and I was decently into it. I got Sun and Moon at launch, never beat it. I never picked up Ultra Sun or Ultra Moon, because I felt guilty picking that up, considering I never beat the base game.
I think a lot of like our history with Pokemon is very similar, right? Like even like the games we played and the ones that we like really liked and stuff like that, you tend to have a more soft spot for like the remakes that are the ones that you played first.
I mean, yeah,
But
the remakes for sure, because like, but that's the thing is I did play Omega Ruby, hated it.
Mhm.
I did not like Omega Ruby. Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. I know they get a lot of flack. I think they're okay. I think they're fine. But like, yeah, like the remakes specifically of like Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and then Fire Red, Leaf Green.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, those definitely hit a sweet spot for me, where it's like these are generations that obviously I really enjoy, and it was during the time where Pokemon gameplay was probably at its peak for me.
Did you play the Let's Go games?
I played a little bit of Let's Go. It was different enough to be interesting, but I never played all the way through because it wasn't interesting enough to keep me the whole game.
So like playing through the Let's Go games just reminded me that I apparently never beat the original Pokemon games.
Oh, really?
And and the amount of times I've probably bought and played those games, right, over the years. And then to realize it's like I never beat these. Because I'm playing through Let's Go, right? And I'm like, I don't remember any of this. Like I knew which parts were different, but like I'm like playing, it's like, I'll remember that. I'll remember that. I remember that. Don't remember that. Who is this character? Right? But yeah, no, like I said, we're just being similar age stuff. We kind of got our start in Pokemon the same way. And I think where we start to differ is like what Pokemon represents and what it should be moving forward. Like how do you continue to evolve a franchise that is 25 years old?
I mean, yeah.
Or is it 30 now? How old is Pokemon? When did Pokemon come out?
Came out, well, like the Red and Green originally were 96.
Yeah, so like nearly 30 years old, right?
Literally since I was born.
Yeah. So how do you continue to do that? And is it doing it? Is it, you know, does it need to do it? Should it just keep doing the same thing? Like, I don't know. Scarlet and Violet are the furthest the game's ever come, but the game doesn't run and still doesn't have voice acting.
Yeah.
The game has full-on cutscenes with no voice acting.
Yeah. I definitely think like, yeah, Pokemon should evolve and like obviously like upgrade with the times. Like I like there's no reason for Scarlet and Violet to not have like a voice acting kind of thing or like general stuff like that. Also, it should just fucking function, but you know, that might be asking too
You're
much.
asking for a lot now.
But I also still want like the core game to kind of be the same or at least like on par. I don't want them to vary it so much that it's not identifiable as like this is a Pokemon game. Like,
Well, okay, so what are the because there might be two different categories here, right? There's like what is a Pokemon game and what's a monster catching game, right? So like what are the identifiable things as far as the gameplay is concerned that is Pokemon?
I mean, if you ask me, a Pokemon game is you'll have that monster catching aspect of here are the Pokemon, you'll go out, you'll be catching them, you're making your team. And then you have the battles, which if yet again, you ask me, turn-based combat, type advantages, that type of thing, you have your stat lineup, all that.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of the progression, there is like some sort of, not necessarily like, doesn't have to be gyms. I was okay with Sun and Moon not being gyms or anything like that, but some sort of like, here is a checkpoint boss esque kind of thing. Like, here is the challenge that you as the player are going through. Um,
Like
I
these kind of like totems and stuff that you're like moving.
essentially,
Yeah.
yeah, like whether it be the gym battles or with Sun and Moon the trials, um, I find that to be like a really core aspect of Pokemon,
Mm-hmm.
because the general idea of Pokemon is becoming the champion,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and thus that competitive edge, and I think that's a really major key in a lot of Pokemon games.
Mm-hmm. Now, with that, I guess that kind of brings us to like one of our first main differences is okay. Before I get onto that, animations. One big thing I always saw because what I was going to bring up is like the turn-based combat. And one thing I always talk about when I play video games is how connected I feel to what it is I'm doing. The downside to turn-based combat, one of the downsides to turn-based combat, is you are disconnected from the action that's happening on screen. That's just an inherent thing of things happening in turn-based. I think Pokemon narratively kind of gets around that because you are someone commanding someone else as opposed to being the action itself. But then you also got games like Persona 5, which very much makes you feel part of the combat, even though it's turn-based. You think Final Fantasy and its active battle system, right? It's active time battles. So there are ways to kind of get you actively participating in the games, as opposed to like I don't know about you, but like once I knew how to read, I just picked the attack that had the most damage, and I did that every single time and made sure I roughly paid attention to my type combinations.
I was all, as soon as I was able to comprehend, here's Pokemon, here's how the game works, I was all on types, like
Mm-hmm.
typings, matchups, that type of thing. I never got deep enough to the point where I was like paying attention to IVs and EVs or like
Yeah.
anything like that. Um, Heck, I barely paid attention to the stats. I just picked the Pokemon I liked the best and hoped for the best. Um, but I was always conscious of like the type weaknesses and strengths. And so whenever I played, it wasn't just like, oh, here's my starter. This attack is strong. Let's just fucking go. If I had my starter out there and then they throw out a Pokemon that was a like a super effective against mine, I would switch and try to get a better matchup.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
like I definitely played to the different type variations.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think I did to a degree. I maybe not as um maybe not as big. Like if I could help, like if I just like my Pokemon's just better, I can tank this. I have this very specific memory of Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I was playing and a friend had overwritten my save and chose Chikorita, and just out of like pure stubborn principle, I kept it. And I remember specifically going all the way through like what team was that? The bad guy team. It was Magma, right? Magma and
And
Aqua.
wait, in Silver,
Yeah, was it? What
it's
am I?
just Team Rocket.
Anyway, I played it. I remember now. I played a game with the wrong type just to prove a point to no one but myself.
Oh,
Uh, but yeah, no. So back on topic with the games and having that connectedness. One thing I've always said is that Pokemon can evolve its combat, maybe even come away from uh, turn-based combat, and I've always thought about like how that can be done. And one way that I look at it is the Ni no Kuni games. I want to say specifically the first one, because it was this like mix of like turn-based and like action combat. Also, kind of like the Final Fantasy remake games, a
Mhm.
bit. But like, where's your like? What is it about the turn based that is so core to Pokemon for you?
I mean, for me, it's purely the fact it's been there since the beginning, and like imagining a Pokemon game without the turn-based combat feels weird, mostly because like with Pokemon, it is a game where like training and thus like going through combats frequently is going to happen. Like you're going to be going and battling a ton. For it to be a whole thing of, oh, now we're battling, we're entering into this other thing, you have to do all these like button prompts and presses just to go about this combat, and you're going to have to do that like 50 times before you even reach your next gym.
I mean,
Feels like it'd be a lot.
isn't that RPGs?
If you're talking about action RPGs, yes, and I hate them. I mean, straight up, like I don't like recent Final Fantasies. I don't like Kingdom Hearts.
I don't like
Like
Kingdom Hearts, but there's a lot of things with Kingdom Hearts. Not to, but we're not gonna get into that one. Maybe we'll find someone who like knows anything about Kingdom Hearts. But
like
um,
I am also just I prefer turn-based combat in RPG
mhm.
style games, unless it is just going to be a straight up like action RPG oriented thing. But if you're going to have like these moments of you're just going to be like exploring around and now we're doing combat, like I want it to just do to be quick turn-based. I can go through it and that type of thing. Also because personally how I view like turn-based combat, it's almost like a puzzle. Um and I especially feel this way whenever I play like a Persona game, that type of thing. And
Yeah,
I'd say equally enough with Pokemon. It's more of a puzzle. Like here's my team, here's that my enemy's team. How can I maneuver this so I can beat them quickly but also minimize damage to me? And that's what I like. Um Also, I enjoy Pokemon games being turn-based combat because Pokemon games originated as a handheld game,
yes,
and thus it was best as like, oh, I'm gonna pick up and play, and like, oh, like as a kid, I'd have my like SP or something. I'm playing some Pokemon. My mom goes, "Oh, dinner's ready," and I say, "Okay," and I shut my SP, set it off to the side, go eat dinner, and it's like I could be in the middle of a combat. It doesn't matter. I then just open it back up, and I'm like, "Yeah, here I am, back to it."
yeah.
Like,
It's not too terribly involved, and
yeah,
yeah, especially for like the place that you're playing it in. Now what about
easy
like
pick up play.
uh, so like a way that you could maybe fix that? What about a difficulty slider?
Why?
So you can add in those more complex elements while still maintaining that like kind of casual play.
I think Pokemon's already nailed that pretty
You think so?
easily. Yeah, like yeah, there are some Pokemon games where it's been like so ungodly easy, but most of the time it was just because like the balancing of leveling and that type of thing were kind of off. Um and so like I think Pokemon has been able to do like a pretty solid job of doing like, hey, here's the difficulty. It's approachable for new players, but like older players will still have a good time.
Yeah.
If anything, what I almost would love to see them do is to have like, okay, you've beaten the game, you've unlocked essentially like a new game plus mode where the AI is going to be way more brutal.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like I would kind of love to see that from a Pokemon game, but I think the entry level like difficulty they've had it been has been fine.
Now, I would so like okay. I mean, to be fair, I don't the difficult. I don't think Pokemon like not. I think it's I think it's mechanically too simple, but I don't think the difficulty, as in like, you know, how you're playing the game where you have to grind or not grind. I don't think, like you said, I don't think that's bad at all.
Mm.
But here's a thing, because, you know, like I said, I mentioned earlier, we need to update the combat. The biggest update, the biggest change outside of like adding double battles and then taking them away, and then adding mega evolutions and then taking them away, is would have to be in Pokemon Legends. What did you think about the way, regardless of to like the flow of the game? We're talking specifically the battles, and let's say catching. The way that you interacted with Pokemon in the world through battles and catching and stuff like that.
Ultimately, I thought it was fine. It didn't thrill me. Like, I don't know. Pokemon Legends was a very different game for me, and honestly, like when it came to the catching and battles, I went about it way different than I have any other Pokemon game because it's way different. Like when I was playing Pokemon Legends Arceus, like it was very much I wanted to be that completionist and finish out the like Pokédex entries,
Yeah.
to which a lot of the like requirements were like catch this Pokemon 10 times. So I was just running out there chucking Pokeballs left and right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Um,
think a lot of people, and myself included, a lot of people saw the Legends game as like the idea of Pokemon distilled down to its most purest form, right? Its catch line has always been gotta catch 'em all. Right? And like I completely agree that like the gym battles and everything like that are like integral to Pokemon. But just like in a pure like Pokemon is a monster catching game. Legends Arceus was about catching monsters.
I mean, yeah.
um
And I I personally don't fall back on the gotta catch 'em all tag all that much
I mean
because
honestly neither did I. Like I'm not a completionist kind of person.
I mean I also just saw the gotta catch 'em all line as a gimmick from it to like I don't know like it felt like almost like a push from them to be like, yeah, you gotta catch them all, like get all the Pokemon. Oh, hey, we released these Pokemon toys. Well, you gotta catch them all, get all the Pokemon.
I
Like
mean
I
I
don't know.
do think that like that idea, right, this monster collecting is integral to Pokemon. I think it's integral to like a lot of monster games, but especially Pokemon. But I don't think it's like the end all be all, right? Like I don't think that's
Yeah,
the you have just that concept and now you got Pokemon.
yeah.
Um,
I think gotta catch like the catching them all kind of thing. You have your Pokedex, and so it's like it is definitely like a thing you can do, but it's never been necessarily like expressed through the gameplay until Legends, which is like fine. It was just also a thing where I'm like I was never worried about that.
yeah, they mention it, and in other games they will reward you for it, but there's never a big push for it. Like you'll complete the game and no one's gonna go like, you only got like 50 entries on here. Like the game never does that at any point.
Mm.
I really liked in Legends the how the Pokemon were out in open world. I like how they would attack you. I thought that was really cool. It really added a dynamic level to the game and interacting with it. Um, and I liked the battles. This was the biggest change to battles that we've seen. For one, battles could happen anywhere. You just throw your Pokeball, your Pokemon out, and that's where the battle was happening. You could run around while they were battling. It was still turn based and everything, but it happened within the actual world as opposed to like this voided instance. And the other biggest change was there was a turn battle order, which should not be confusing or hard to anyone who's played turn-based RPGs. But there was a turn battle order, and you could dynamically switch your attacks to be either a strong version or a weak version, or like a fast version rather, and that would change the damage the attack did as well as the turn order of the way the battle flowed. Did it have a dodge mechanic, like a guard mechanic, or am I making that up? I don't I don't remember if that was a thing or not. I wanted to say it was a thing, but I also want to say I was making it up. But I thought that was really cool. Like, well, so what was your thoughts on like the changes that they made to the actual combat?
Um, it was kind of like a, I don't know. The turn order stuff didn't thrill me because if anything, like there were multiple times where it's like I would do like, oh, here's like a swift attack and the turn order doesn't change, or I would do like a heavy attack and the turn order doesn't change. And like I would there was multiple times where it's just like I would try to do this thing to try to get like a different uh, option out of the turn order and it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like and it was something where I'm like I probably could have looked into it and found out why, but I didn't feel the need to.
Mm-hmm.
Um it just felt like at some points like yeah, I would do this one thing and then the way the game worked out, it was like, oh, the enemy gets 2 attacks now, and I'm like, oh well, okay, fuck me, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, and so like that never really didn't really thrill me. It was like fine. Um,
Okay.
it hit me about as much as any other battle gimmick has, like from Mega Evolutions to Gigantamax, like
Well, what about
that
the?
type of thing.
What about so like regardless of how it was implemented, what about the like it as a concept? Like having a Pokemon bat where you can kind of dynamically choose to affect that turn order, because like yeah, affect that turn order and everything. I think it adds an extra element. And like I said, I don't remember if there was a guard mechanic, but like even a guard mechanic similar to something like the active time battle in Final Fantasy games, I think would be really interesting. Like you're playing a game, Pokemon's like winding because there are attacks that wind up for multiple turns, right?
Yeah.
And maybe you can like tell your Pokemon. I feel like there was a guard. I could go get my Switch and pull it up, but I'm not going to do that.
Or you could just fucking Google it
I could Google it.
or add a computer.
I don't believe in computers. They're not real. Uh, but being able to go and tell your Pokemon to guard at the last minute. Maybe it like slows your Pokemon down or you skip a turn or something like whatever. But like make it so I had gotten to the point where I play Pokemon games half asleep. Right? You make your Greninja as fast as possible and then you choose Water Shuriken every time. And you always attack first. And you play the game with one hand half asleep. Like that's where I'd gotten to. But when you add these like elements into turn-based games, you will eventually always get to the point where you can just like steamroll the game. Like that's just what will happen. But at least for most of it, you're still like actively needing to pay attention. I need to worry about my turn order. Can I block this or what may be the case? What do you think about stronger implementations of that into a Pokemon game?
I don't think it's needed.
You don't think it's needed?
Mostly because when I'm thinking of like okay, games that have like turn-based games that have like a guard option, I also think towards like Persona and that type of thing. The major times you're using a guard move in Persona is in a boss battle where yeah, they're like telegraphing like they don't do anything on their turn. It just says like, oh, they're gearing up for an attack, they're gearing up, and then they attack, and if you don't block, it's essentially an instant kill.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a ton of those in Pokemon. There are a couple of moves that charge. The odds of that happening are so little. So if you're going to put a guard move in, that means you have to change some of these moves to require a charge, which slows things down more because now you're just kind of like, it's not just like you do your battle, you're done. Now it is, okay, your opponent's going to be doing these different charge moves, which is essentially them going for a turn, I'm doing nothing. And then you have to essentially take a turn to do nothing to block some incoming damage. Like, I don't think that's interesting enough.
Well, what about making it active? So, like, more on the Final Fantasy side of things. So, like, was this 13? 13 used the same system. When an attack was coming in, there would be a window period, almost like an active reload, right? There'll be a
You're
window
talking
period.
like Paper Mario.
Yes. Yeah, like
No.
I also think cuz yeah, Paper Mario did it because Mario RPG did it first. Yeah.
I wouldn't want that.
No.
No.
See, I think something like that would, like I said, really just more like would better engage you into what you are doing.
I don't feel the need to be more engaged in Pokemon than I already am now.
You don't want to.
Pokemon is a relaxed game for me.
Uh
I don't need it to be sweaty. And I'm not saying you're getting sweaty playing
no,
like
no, no.
Paper Mario or
Yeah,
anything,
yeah.
but like I don't need to be on the edge of my seat waiting doing these button prompts just to reduce my damage by a little bit. Like
Yeah, that's why you play RuneScape.
yeah, it's casual and laid back.
No, I'm talking
Like,
about sweating.
oh,
Haven't you've been like
I've been doing prayer flicking
Yeah.
stuff, and it's essentially just like a rhythm game.
you
But that's only if I want to.
Uh-huh.
Like the whole game isn't that. It's not like every single combat I go into, I have to do this or I die.
I was
It's
just like
no.
imagining you're just like sweating buckets. Yeah.
No, it's called instead of me clicking once and then like looking at my phone for a bit, I'm just like listening to music and clicking a button in time.
Yeah, I heard that
Like-
you made a playlist for that.
I did. It's the nerdiest shit I've ever done.
That's great. I love it. But yeah, no. So like, there's a lot of different things that we could do with like Pokemon and stuff like that. And we both come from like different aspects of it, right? Because like for you, it's this relaxing game, and you you have this like tie to your like your childhood. I'm like, old thing bad, new thing good.
Your ADHD brain can't handle the old anymore.
I can't do it. I can still play Halo, which is wild to me. It's like one of the few things I have nostalgia about. But I
Yeah,
also
I'm
still
like-
think that like Halo just like really holds up.
I mean, it does.
Like,
But,
man.
I don't know. So like in terms of the new stuff like Pokemon has done that like I think has been good. Like I think the open world exploration-esque kind of thing,
Mhm.
seeing the Pokemon in the open world,
Mhm.
that's cool and it feels great when it works. And so like I am all down for that kind of thing. The exploration has felt pretty good. My only thing is like if you're gonna have these open world exploration kind of things, put some stuff in there that's like I don't know, interesting.
Yeah, make a good open world game.
I can shit on Scarlet and Violet all I fucking want. The open worlds in there was so many times where I'm like, there's fucking nothing here.
Yeah.
Except for like, oh, here's a crater where there's a single item, and I take forever to go down, grab the item to find out it's a single potion, and then I have to crawl back out.
Yeah.
Like, make the exploration interesting and like worthwhile, and then it's like it's great.
It's
Totally
wild because
down.
this is right. This is the same. It's not the same studio. Not even saying because like Pokemon has like is in a weird custody battle with divorced parents, but that still talk to each other. But it's weird, right? This is the same console, right? The same like console exclusive that you can play right next to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom,
Yeah.
right? That kind of like changed the way that we look at these open world adventure games.
Yeah. And it's like I'm way down for Pokemon to be more open world and an adventure style, but like I don't need I don't need the game to either like I don't need it to have all these different features that kind of like hold my hand a bit, essentially. Like I think they should have a bit more faith in their players that they can handle some stuff. And like just I don't know, do it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think
I
Pokemon
would've-
should still attack
I
you
would've
in open
adored-
world though. That was fun.
I would have adored Scarlet and Violet if the open world was interesting and it actually fucking worked.
I would have adored it if there weren't 3-minute cutscenes with no one saying anything.
Yeah, voice acting would be nice, but I think that's kind of a give me.
But like, no, I want battles to stay in the open world. I thought that was really cool in Legends. I thought that was neat, just being able to just like run around in circles while your Pokemon like do the little Pokemon thing. And also, I would like some actual animations. I want the Pokemon to actually interact with each other.
That'd be nice.
That would be cool, along with, but I want I want the classic sounds to stay.
Yeah.
Like the chip tune. I want that to, don't touch that. Like that is perfect the way it is.
Do you want to make fun of me?
What?
So so yeah, Pokemon Legends Arceus, you could like run around, do whatever during the battle. You want to know what I would do?
You stood right where you were supposed to, didn't you?
No.
What?
I would do my best to line myself up so it looked like the old like lineup
Yeah.
in the old Pokemon games where it's like, okay, my trainer's standing on the left side of the screen with my Pokemon like just beside them, and my opponent's standing on the right side of the screen with their Pokemon just beside them, and I do my best to line it up just like that.
So I want to pretend that this is 2D.
Exactly.
Look, I was that kid who like followed
run.
I was that kid who like followed the traffic laws while playing GTA when I wasn't supposed to because I
Yeah.
was way too young. You're the person who goes to the BMV to play GTA because
Yeah. I don't know. It's like, hey, here's this like way you can play this game like unrestricted. Go have fun. And I'm just like, what if I don't though?
I kind of
What
get
if-
that, but that is also very funny.
Yeah.
I'm
I
kinda
mean,
judging you for that.
it is on par for me. I told you you
Yeah.
would.
But I do get it. I 100% get it because I'm kind of that person sometimes. But yeah, no, it is hard. But like, I think that's cool. They should just keep that in the open world. I feel like they may have thought about it at one point for Scarlet and Violet, and then realized that the game didn't run, and it would probably run even worse trying to have a Pokemon battle out in the open world. And it's hard to imagine that game running even worse, because even the cutscenes didn't run at full frame rate. And the game logic was tied to frame rate speed. So as the frame rate dropped, the entire game would slow down.
Yeah.
Because these are professional programmers. I'm not going to blame the studio, though.
And imagine you had to do in-time button presses to do stuff in the game while that was happening, Mateo.
Okay, well, the game needs to work. Don't you understand? The game doesn't work, and you're bad for complaining about that. But no, and so what do you think that they're gonna go back to the style of battle play that the first Legends game had for the new one, or do you think they're going to are the Legends games going to be where they like throw everything at the window and throw everything at the wall, see what works?
It could be. I could see them going either way because the way I kind of look at Legends Arceus now is it was them testing the waters to be like, all right, do people like this style? And if they do, we'll keep going with what we were planning. If they don't, well, shit.
People liked
So,
Arceus though.
Yeah, and
Like, a
people
lot.
did, and thus that's why like Violet and Scarlet came out and
Arceus
was
ran.
kind of the same thing, and it was just kind of garbage. But anyways,
I mean, Arceus was ugly, but it ran.
yeah, it ran. So like I could see them trying to do like some more innovative like kind of things to test what the Pokemon community is okay with.
Mm-hmm.
Can also see them going back towards like the gameplay roots of Legends Arceus, where it's going to be more like capture focused and like that general kind of vibe. Like
I think they get rid of.
and,
I
like,
think they
requests
complete
and that
like.
type of thing.
I don't think it's capture focused. I think there's still battles because of course there needs to be,
I mean, yeah,
but because like it's Lumio City, right? This whole like people and Pokemon living together. I think they're gonna take out the whole like capture thing almost altogether.
I
It's
don't
gonna be
know
like
about that.
Pokemon Rangers.
I don't know about that.
You have to be.
I think there's still going to be a capture thing. I think if anything, the game's going to be focused on your trying to be you're like one of the like helpers trying to rebuild the city, and thus it's going to be a game full of like requests to go get materials to build up the city, or like, oh hey, we built up this thing, but this Pokemon's having issues with it. Go to find out this Pokemon and try to like reach a
I don't know if I
understanding
love
with
this or
them. I don't
hate
know.
this.
Like, I'm fine with it.
What if it's
It,
just Pokemon Rangers?
it could be. Who knows?
I like the
I don't
Pokemon
know.
Rangers games. You never captured Pokemon. You would just make friends with them for like 20 minutes, and
Yeah.
then, it's like, okay, bye. Like,
Yeah,
I can see them doing that.
I'm interested. I'm interested to see what they do. After the flop that was Scarlet and Violet, I am not buying it at launch. I'm gonna very much wait and see what if it fucking works.
My I tried to wait for Scarlet and Violet to see if it would go down in price because it came out so bad, and then it never went down in price because it's Pokemon.
Yeah,
So I just went and got it.
I bought it at launch because
I saved
but
$5.
so like I was so used to like the Pokemon launch cycle to where like to new Pokemon games typically launched in November, and my family has like this like essentially condo that we always go to. It's out of town, and we go there for Thanksgiving, and it's just a way for us to get out of the house. We're somewhere else, so we don't have any obligation to like do anything. We just go and hang out and then have Thanksgiving. And my routine was I would buy the latest Pokemon game, and that's what I did. I would go and hang out with my parents, watch TV, and I'd be playing Pokemon. Um, I won't be doing that. One, because who knows if it's actually going to fucking come out in November, because I know Legends Arceus came out in like summer.
Yeah.
So like I don't know when this is coming out. I'm hoping they take their fucking time with it. But like also I can find other things to play now in November. I don't need to buy the Pokemon game at launch to play. Like oh,
Yeah, I mean, it's changing, and like where we're sitting with it and all that stuff, it's just kind of different. But like as we're like closing out here, just briefly want to bring up Palworld.
yeah, I was about to say I'm like we can't end this until I figure out what the fuck did you mean by Palworld was your perfect Pokemon game, cuz like I
So
got some opinions.
it's okay. One, it's a bit hyperbolic, but it does the things that I kind of wanted Pokemon to do. Now it's missing a lot of things, right? Like the story and like any actual kind of structure. It's more of a better Legends Arceus than anything else. Is actually what Palworld is. It's a more realized Legends Arceus. It is open world. Everything happens, out this. There's no instances or anything like that. It has the survival mechanics, which I'm honestly, if you know me, I'm not a huge survival game fan. But like most people, everyone can go into Minecraft and mine ore for like 3 hours at a time. But and those mechanics aren't so bogged down, right? With that you have to like go, pee and drink water every 3 minutes or else you're gonna die. It's like remember to eat and don't get too cold, and that's about all you have to worry about. And I like the active nature of the combat. Now, I do think combat could be better. I still think that the perfect mix of like that Pokemon style combat was in Ni no Kuni. So like your character could run around, you could hit things with your sword, and then you had these these abilities on cooldown for like essentially like your Pokemon that you could pop off. And I think that would be a perfect system. But like being an active part of the battle, like having my Pokemon use abilities, swapping out the Pokemon for like a better Pokemon when I need to at the last minute, Palworld gives you a gun. And I think that is an interesting way to interact with a creature battler. like Pokemon. And like I said, it's missing stuff, but it is kind of what I wanted out of a Pokemon game. I wanted to be actively involved with what was happening. I wanted that open world, and actually, really, that was just it. I just wanted to be actively involved to give me an open world, and it did that, and it works, and the game runs. That's cool. Like I said, you get a Glock. So,
Yeah.
what were
Alright.
you? Because you played a little bit of it, right?
I've played a little bit. The way I see it is it's more just like here's this survival game, like here's Ark, but the creatures in it you can like capture and thus use as slaves.
Yeah,
And the only Pokemon-esque thing in it to me is there are these cartoony creatures and you put them into a ball.
I mean, to be
Nothing
fair, yeah,
else really feels Pokemon-esque to me, and thus like
it kind of has gym battles.
kind of,
Uh, I only did one.
but like even then like you're like, oh, I felt active in the battle, and it's like, yeah, you threw out your like Pokemon thing, it went and just automatically started fighting this other thing, to which if it was me, most of the time my pals would, I'd send them out and be like, go fucking fight this guy, I'll start shooting, and he just fucking went over in the corner and scratched his ass, and it was like, all right, cool, I guess I got this. um
Yeah,
like
no, low level's a little bit different, as well as like it's an early access game, but I can
yeah,
see where this ends up in the future. And like one
it's
really
one of those
cool,
things where ultimately the Pokemon just felt like, the pals just felt like, yeah, you toss them out, but otherwise you're just doing your third person shooter kind of thing.
yeah, no, I agree.
So it's like,
That
am I
changes.
really battling?
No, so that changes a little bit as you get a little bit later in. Um, just because of like a few different abilities that you end up getting. Because what ends up happening is your pals quickly outpace your own ability to put out damage. So you get to the point where your weapons become your pals, and like you're just not going to be doing enough damage to do anything.
Yeah,
Um,
so now I'm sending out my pal and they're gonna take out this thing, and I'm
well,
ultimately just
the cool part about it is that like you can actively switch them, right? So say like you have a you have a pal that's about to get attacked or whatever, you can recall them back and throw out another pal. Um, as well as, again, as you level up, they have special abilities that you can activate. So, I mean, and they range from all sorts of things to like a shield to an attack to a few of them just get guns. Like little squirrel dude just got an AK, and that's what he does. And you can ride them, use them as mounts. And when they're mounted, when you get a pal that you can mount, you get like 3 different attacks for the most part that you can use on a cooldown, as well as you're still able to like shoot your weapon or whatever you have in your hand. So
Mhm.
like I can see where that becomes like a really active, and like I said, I think the more perfect version is a mixture of something like that with Nino Kuni, where you just have that like you throw out your Pokemon or whatever, and then like either on your keyboard or if you're playing with a controller or whatever, you have like your 3 or 4 different attacks that you cycle through on the cooldown. Like so you can still run around, dodge, swing your sword or whatever, but then you can lightning bolt, tackle, whatever, and those are on a cooldown.
That
And
also
I
means adding in the feature of you as a Pokemon trainer running up and just kicking the shit out of your opponent's Pokemon,
yes,
and them doing the same thing to yours. To
yes,
which I don't know how I feel about that.
I love it. Pokemon are terrifying. Like you've read the like Pokedex entries. Half of them are just like dead children. I've said that now.
Half of them are like, yeah, you touch this Pokemon, you fucking die. So imagine going up against that with a fucking baseball bat. thing instantly KOs you.
That's what the
It
Glock is
doesn't even
for.
KO you. It literally kills you.
That's what the Glock is for.
Pikachu now has to fucking run a funeral. Closed casket, everything. You ain't gonna look at that.
One of the abilities in Palworld for one of the pals is they stuff themselves into a bazooka
I've seen that.
and you fire them, and you get, like I said earlier, the squirrel gets a gun, the monkey gets like a submachine gun. You can pick up the fox and just use them as a flamethrower. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I just like that, like, active engagement. I like to be active in my games. I don't think if they add the basic things to like regular Pokemon, give us voice acting, make the game run for God's sake, and like, I don't know, keep the battles in the actual world. Oh, and add animations. I'm so tired of like, here are these 3D Pokemon. Actually, did the battles take place in the actual world? They did in Scarlet and Violet.
Yes.
Yeah, they did. I take that back. But still, keep that. But you couldn't move, right? Or you could?
No.
Yeah.
I don't think you could.
Yeah. So, like, I won't get... and that's not a huge deal, but still. But give me actual animations, so that the Pokemon look like they're doing something. Instead of just, like, wiggling, and then some lines show up, and then the other Pokemon falls over. Like, this is 3D. Why are we still using 2D assets? Like, you do those things, I'll be happy with the next Pokemon game. I'm not going to complain too much.
We shall see.
We shall see. Any closing remarks?
No. Pokemon, just get your shit together.
Give them more time. Game Freak has like 100 employees. Like, the Pokemon Company and Nintendo need to get your stuff together. Delay a season. It doesn't matter. The biggest media franchise in the world. There's like, we're not delaying anything. Put the game out.
Put it out.
We have to coordinate. And the TV show hasn't even come out yet.
No.
Like, okay, yeah. But this has been an episode. This has been fun. I think we talked about stuff. We went a little bit long.
We talked about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
We definitely did.
But tune in next time for whatever we decide to talk about then.
Yeah, more garbage.
More garbage. Have fun.
Bye.
Bye.